Hello, hello, and welcome to this discussion of the astrology of November. November is really a pinnacle month this year in terms of astrology, which is saying a lot because we have had some big transits this year. But November, I would say, is probably um, the biggest. Yeah, the biggest, one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I will record separate astrology and tarot horoscopes for one of the transits we're going to talk about, and those will come out in the coming weeks. But for now, we're just going to talk about the astrology of the month. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Lisa Merrifield. I'm with Trails Edge Astrology, and my goal on this channel is to give grounded and practical astrological advice so that you can make the best decisions possible for your life. All right, as I said, November is a big month, one of the biggest of the year. Um, of course, the election is Tuesday, and there's big astrology going into that, and I think on the other side of it too, that is really telling about what we might be able to expect to see coming from this election. Um, yeah, we have two really profound transits happening, one on the 3rd, one on the 19th, that we'll talk about. And hopefully, this will give you some peace if your life has been a little crazy. Most of ours has, I think, in one way or another through this time period. There's just a lot of change and a lot of movement in the air. So we start the month off. There we go. We start the month off on November 1st with a Scorpio New Moon. And the Scorpio New Moon is always about cleaning and clearing. The growing season is over, and so we're really processing information, and we're, finalizing and updating and, kind of like clearing the slate, getting ready to go into the solstice and into the return of the light. So, this is a really good time to update your will or deal with your finances or deal with some of those things that you might not want to look at on a regular basis. Um, and this new moon is ruled by Mars, which has the next significant transit of the year, and we are probably already feeling that. So on November 3rd, Mars will oppose Pluto. And yeah, this is a really dynamic transit. It's yeah, it's a really dynamic transit. It's a powerful transit. It's about power struggles. Mars is in Cancer, and very much very feeling very protective, feeling very sensitive, feeling very sometimes yeah, sometimes feeling defensive in ways that may or may not be reasonable. But yeah, so Mars in Cancer is feeling a certain way, opposing Pluto that wants to reveal secrets and share information and is closing out its time in Capricorn, and so it just has the potential to be really tumultuous emotionally, probably. And potentially coming right before the election. Well, I think we're already seeing some of the bombshells coming out around the information showing up for this election, and the dire nature, the polarization we're feeling right now seems so huge, and I think that's really indicative of Mars opposite Pluto. This is also significant because Mars is going to go retrograde in December, so this is the first of 3 oppositions. It is the only one of these oppositions that's going to be in Capricorn. The other 2 oppositions are in Capricorn and Cancer. The other 2 oppositions will be in Aquarius and Leo. So while this is a starting point of this story, the story is going to shift as we go, as we move along. So, um, so yeah, so you're probably feeling this transit. You probably have been feeling it since late October. Um, it is intense. It can bring up power struggles, and it can bring up feelings of feeling like we need to protect our own and like we need to defend ourselves. Um, it can feel overprotective, really sensitive, all of those things. And it can be really heated. So, so I think, the main thing in this beginning of the month, depending on when you're listening to this, but the beginning of the month is just to breathe and to take care of yourself. And if you're feeling activated, just check in with yourself. Like, is this something that needs me to respond to it, or is this something that can wait a little bit until I know, and, have a little bit more information on the picture? Um, Mars in Cancer can just be anxious. And so, is it anxiety? And what are your coping mechanisms for dealing with anxiety? All that's valid. Um, Interestingly, at the same time that Mars is opposing Pluto, Venus will be opposing Jupiter. And that's a really nice transit. It's nice and expansive. It brings beauty and harmony and balance. Um, they are in Sagittarius and Gemini, so it's about wisdom and information. So I'm hoping that that kind of like gives us something to help us get over the finish line on this election and whatever else is going on in our lives. So yeah, I expect the beginning of the month to be a little tumultuous, and for us to all be feeling a little bit anxious and defensive about what's going on. So, one of the pieces of information I gave, or one of the pieces of advice I gave in the 1 Minute Astrology today, was about a practice called Metta. It's a Buddha practice, Metta, and Metta is the practice of giving yourself loving kindness, and then giving people loving kindness, or people you love loving kindness, and parsing it out, including sending loving kindness to people that you don't like or you don't agree with. And so you might Google Metta. Maybe I'll do a video on a Metta meditation practice. But yeah, Metta. It's worth looking at in this time when, hopefully after this election, after this divisiveness, we can all kind of come together and regroup and remember that we all share humanity and this planet together. So there's my 2 cents on that. But hopefully, with the Mars Pluto opposition, hopefully this Venus Jupiter opposition will help temper that a little bit. All right. The next piece of astrology I want to talk about in November is this full moon in Taurus. And this full moon in Taurus is a doozy. This is just a heavy month. Um, it is big because the full moon is conjunct Uranus, and Uranus brings freedom seeking. It breaks down the status quo. It ruffles feathers. It gets us out of our stuck places. And Taurus is fixed Earth, so it can be stuck sometimes. And so Uranus really wants us to push out of that. Now, we've been seeing these full moons in Taurus conjunct Uranus for a while now. So may or may not be anything other than kind of what we've been seeing over the last several years, but nonetheless has the potential to really illuminate some things and really to move the needle. So I would guess that if there is questions about the election, which there may or may not be, but if there are questions about the election, something might be illuminated at this point, something that like moves the needle or moves us along. And the election may be decided, maybe easily decided, and so we may not see anything related to the election, but something will probably come to light during this time, related to your Taurus house, related to whatever is in that space, and it might be shocking or surprising, or it might just help you break through something that has been feeling stuck. So, yeah, let me look at my notes here. Yeah, it's been happening regularly since Uranus has been in Taurus. So not new for the Taurus full moon to be conjunct Uranus, but it's conjunct Uranus again right after this heady election. So that's something that to look for, see what comes up for you. Um yeah, and just again breathe through it. Surprises and change aren't bad, but sometimes they're hard. So that yeah, that moon, it just may reveal some things that we hadn't seen or we didn't know. And I can't remember when Trump's supposed to get sentenced. It might be around that time. So maybe it's something around that space. We'll see. And whatever comes up in your life is going to be whatever it is in your life. It's that full moon is at, I think it's at the ending degree. Well, it has to be at the ending degrees. It's at that full moon in Taurus is at 24 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything around, 20 to 28 degrees of any of the fixed signs, Aquarius, Taurus, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio. Hold on. All right, I'm back. And I was saying, I just wanted to check my degrees. So 24 degrees of fixed signs. So if you've got anything around 20 to 24 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, or or Taurus, you might feel this one in kind of a big way. So So see what comes up. Expect some revelations, expect some surprises. All right, our next transit is is arguably the biggest transit of the year. It's the final ingress of Pluto into Aquarius. So Pluto has been dancing back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius since about 2023, and this is the final step into Aquarius for the next 20 years. So the Plutonian Capricornian work will officially be done by the 19th. So again, I would guess if there's any question about the election, it will be done and we will be moving into the next stage of things. So I want to like spend a little bit of time on this because Pluto takes 248 years to go around the cycle. So in our lifetime, Pluto does not touch all the signs, whereas the other planets, we get the feel for them at least once in our lifetime. Pluto, we don't. We don't see, because it takes so long. We only get part of the cycle. So so it's worth spending a little bit more time on this. This is why this feels like the pinnacle transit of the year. We had the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, incredibly important, but it happens every 14 years. Pluto moving into a different sign, it's going to be another 20 years before Pluto moves into Pisces. So we've got some time to work on this one. And when I do the tarot and astrology readings, I'm going to look at what Pluto in Aquarius looks like for you. So to think about this, Pluto was in Aquarius between about March and June of 2023, and then between about January and August of 2024. So you might compare and contrast those time periods with, leading up to March of 2023, between about 2009 and March of 2023. It was in Capricorn that whole time. So there was probably a theme you were working on. And then, as it slid back and forth, are there things that have come up? Pluto has been in Aquarius since September. I'm sorry, Pluto has been in Capricorn since September. And so, what have you been working on? What have you been feeling? What are you finishing up? If anything, you may not have anything in those cardinal placements at the ending degrees of those cardinal placements, Capricorn, Aries, um, Cancer, or Libra, um, and so maybe it's not hitting terribly hard, but maybe it is. So yeah, what are you finishing up? What are you moving on? Um, I also wanted to just go back historically and look at Pluto and Aquarius for a second, because because when Pluto is in Capricorn, we're working on the traditional structures. Capricorn is very much about usefulness and practicality, and it represents government and the status quo of government. It doesn't mean government's not necessarily innovative, but it just is that like that, fixed earth that gets stuff done. And so when Pluto moves into Aquarius, Aquarius is much more about power to the people and about building the ideal society and about technological revolutions. And so we've seen that through time as Pluto has moved through Aquarius. So the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was between 1777 and 1789, and that coincided with the formation of the United States. And of course, in the United States, um, founding documents, we talk about becoming a more perfect union, and that's a very Aquarian idea. Around that time, we also had the French and Haitian Revolution, so there was revolution around the world, like movement towards this more ideal version of society. And I feel like we're feeling that today. Before the 1777 ingress into Aquarius, between 1532 and 1553, Pluto was in Aquarius. So again, these are long cycles, so going way back. And that was when Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church and we had the Protestant Reformation. So again, a really big movement in power to the people, in breaking down hierarchy and coming up with a more perfect system. And then one more look back after that, it from 1041 to 1063, so really, really a long time ago, um, we saw that movable type print was invented in China. So a real technological innovation happened around that time. And of course, we have fewer records. But another thing that we know happened was there was a supernova. I believe it was in the Crab Nebula, and it was visible around the world. And so many societies noted like this thing happening that they didn't understand. Um, and so that that's kind of exciting. So those are the kinds of things that happen when Pluto is in Aquarius, that we have these like real movements towards a better version of society. Aquarius is fixed air, and so it's ruled by Saturn, so it's working within the structures to build a better system. Like it's kind of like sitting on the boundary and realizing that we could do better, and so asking us to do better. So this is really the transit that I think um, to me speaks most to this election and this time in society. Like it, this is a 20-year cycle. Pluto's in Aquarius for a long time, and so we're not necessarily going to turn on a dime. But I think over the course of this period, society will move in a direction where people are more free and more liberated, and more able to express their needs and desires and wants. And really be seen for who they are. So I'm excited about that. I think this is you know, there are things that can come with Aquarian energy. Aquarian energy can be cult-like. It can very because it's fixed air. It can be very much like there is one true way, one true path to do this thing. Um, so that's a concern. I know AI has been linked to Pluto moving into Aquarius, and there's some fear around that. I personally think that, we have the possibility to perhaps unlock some new consciousness. Maybe we can get out of some mundane tasks that will allow us to stretch into using more parts of our brain, or technology can help move human evolution along in a way that we're not expecting. So those are my thoughts on that. Um, but definitely, it's movement. Something's changing. Something's coming. This is really a pinnacle change. We are officially in Pluto in Aquarius after November 19th. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. I'm curious. All right, and then we close out the month with the sun entering Sagittarius on the 21st, which is not incredibly unusual, but we move from this scorpionic season where we really dig deep and, we look within and we break down the pieces, and we move into the Sagittarius season where we are a little bit more optimistic, and we're starting to, think about what we believe and what we value, and then starting to think about what we bring in once we get to the solstice on December 21st. And then finally, we end the month on November 25th. Well, we end the month on the 30th? How many days are in September or in November? There are 30 days in November. I should know that. So we end the month on the 30th, but on the 25th, Mercury will go retrograde. So we'll end November with a Mercury retrograde. It is going to explore degrees between 6 degrees and 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have anything in that range in either Sagittarius or Gemini, perhaps Pisces and Virgo, this retrograde might impact you. And of course, with retrogrades, we're just asked to review, revise, reevaluate, and yeah, rethink. All of those kinds of things. So the end of the month is going to be very much about that. Thanksgiving might be about reminiscing and remembering for us in the US. So those are the transits coming up this month. That's a big energy that I am seeing. And I thank you for being here. If this was useful, if you could give me a like, I would appreciate that. If you are willing to subscribe, I also appreciate that. And I will be back shortly with tarot horoscopes for that Pluto in Aquarius move, to kind of help us think about where it's hitting in our lives and how we can work with that. So with that, I'll sign off and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.